NFL Network analyst Brian Baldinger revealed what it's going to take to turn this ship back around where it belongs after a horrible performance on Sunday morning. I'm going to bring you more on that, plus the best thing that you're going to hear about Fred Warner all day, no doubt. Later in the show, we're also going to talk about Deebo Samuel and Brandon Aiyuk and what they said today about the loss in Minnesota and their chances of winning the Super Bowl. Some interesting stuff in there. So much more. If you're new here, I'm Nate. Love talking the 49ers. Please consider a like and sub. Appreciate it so much. All right, the headline is this. Brian Baldinger was on 95.7 The Game this morning, and he revealed some real gems. The first one comes from a fantastic question from Shasky. The original question is, can the 49ers still move the ball with weapons weapons like Kittle, Jennings, Mason, Aiyuk, obviously, oops, kind of shouldn't have said his name last, and kind of the answer that came out of that reveals the recipe for success for the San Francisco 49ers, what it's going to take. Here's the video. Give it a listen.
Yeah, they can. You're going to see now, because Deebo's out, you'll see the rookie Garendo. And Isaac Garendo, if you watch him in his final game, Louisville USC, he was terrific. He's got 4.3 plus speed at 220 pounds.
Sorry for the pause there. Look, okay, Isaac, this is an interesting take, right? Nobody's saying this. Brian Baldinger is the only one who's saying with confidence that Garendo's going to be out there doing Deebo's snaps. I'll let Baldy continue.
Now, he's got to take care of the ball. He's got to pass protect. There's a lot of things he's got to be able to do. And I'm not sure about some of those things. But he's got legitimate speed. I think, what do you have? Just to one carry the other day. He's going to have to step up because those were Deebo's carries. So they're still going to be a run-first team and setting up their offense. So we're going to see more of Garendo. We got to see more of Aiyuk, period. Aiyuk's got to be featured. All right? So he's going to get a lot more targets than what he's got, and hope he's in good shape. And he's up to speed right now. But, he's going to have to pick it up. Jennings is quality. He just knows how to get open. He's not a burner or anything like that, but he's got size. He knows how to get open. So you're going to have to lean on those guys right now.
Now, I want to respond to that before we have more takes from him, from Baldy, from Deebo, from Aiyuk. We have lots of other stuff to come in the show today, but I want to talk about something that he just said there, and then we're going to break down a little bit more about what he said in terms of the recipe. But he talked about run first, and I really felt like there were a lot of moments in the game that didn't feel like the 49ers were their normal run first selves. At times when maybe they should have been, like goal line, for example, but whatever the case, they open up the first 3 and out with 3 passes. That felt unusual. That felt unnecessary. And maybe it's one of those where, everybody knows we're run first, so we kind of try and change it up to catch them off guard, get a few yards, and then we do a run play. I don't know, because it didn't work. So we never got to see what, could have been, let's say. And because it didn't work, you question whether or not that was the right decision, obviously. That's kind of how it always goes. But whatever the case, he said Isaac Garendo is going to be taking the Deebo snaps. So in the first game, that was a little bit more than in the second game from a run position point of view, but still not a ton. So we're talking about a handful of snaps that Isaac Garendo gets. I think you're going to see, I think Baldy's right, by the way, that I think you're going to see a heavier run game. I think they're going to be more run first, going to feel a lot more like week 1 than it was week 2. I think that Garendo's 4.3, 220 is pretty special. And 4.3 being his speed, not his height. But, I think that's special. Yeah, sure, it's great. But can he sustain it? Can he actually hit the holes, hit the gaps, have the timing figured out without having the rhythm? I'm not going to throw a bunch of shade on Isaac Garendo for his one run. Yeah, a lot of shade thrown. I get it. The guy has, you got to give him some time. He's never, ever run the football in a National Football League game with this exact offensive line, not even in preseason. You can't, you got to give him a little bit of time. Give him some reps. Because, even Jordan Mason took a few reps to get his rhythm. Once he found his rhythm, he looked outstanding, incredible. So, I hope that Isaac Garendo gives you something a little bit different because his straight line speed is unbelievable. So there could be some opportunities out there for him. We'll see what happens. I want to go on, though, and talk about a little bit more, because when we talk about Jordan Mason, we're also talking about what's missing from Christian McCaffrey, and we saw it very clearly. Is the defense is easier. It's easier to scheme against this team when you don't have the threat of Christian McCaffrey in the pass game. That's the part of the game that just looked a little bit weak, and Jordan Mason's there, and we need to feed him the ball more, even if he doesn't gain incredible yardage, because we need the defense to know there's a potential threat there. We need more play action. There's more stuff that we were missing, a lot of stuff we were missing on Sunday morning. Now, continuing on what Baldy had to say, Brandon Aiyuk was the second one. This is probably going to be the biggest storyline going into the game. Brock Purdy or Brandon Aiyuk, one of the two of them. Brandon Aiyuk's got to show up. He's going to have to show up. And there's no more time for, getting in the rhythm of the season. And he knows it. He must know it. Surely he has to know it. I don't know how this is going to play out for the guy. I think he actually played pretty well when you look back at the footage. He did do a pretty good job running his routes. He did do a pretty good job getting open. But yeah, now this is a real pressure on Brock Purdy and Brandon Aiyuk to find that mid-season form from last year. Even some version of that form would be great coming into week 3. It's going to be really, really important, okay? Then, of course, Juwan Jennings gets a little shout-out there from Baldy. Of course, kind of just in his ability to just get open. And we saw it several times both weeks where his targets, he was wide open. And so really exploiting zone defenses mostly is when I noticed it, but really exploiting opportunities to get open in space, especially week 1 against the Jets. So all that being said, the other big storyline is going to be Brock Purdy. We're going to get back to him later in the video. We got another thing that I want to hear from Baldy, and this comes from another excellent question from Shasky.
Overstatement. Baldy, you watch film, you watch all these middle linebackers. How special, how unique is Fred Warner and what you see on film week in, week out?
This is Fred Warner's 7th season. I don't know that there. And by the way, his first game as a 49er
was in Minnesota.
Was in that same building.
Yep.
Was in Minnesota. Yep. I'll never forget talking to John Lynch on the sideline. And I'm like, so who's the – he all he did was rave about Fred Warner. He's played every single game since that first game in 2018. Started every single game. When you talk about the level of consistency, and I said this last week breaking them down, there isn't a more consistent player at any position in this league. When you rate the top 100 players, for whatever that's worth, it's just, television. But, there's not a more consistent player that plays at a higher level than Fred Warner. And already the splash plays that he's made this season, he's just filling up a stat sheet. And the numbers just keep adding up to the point where, I don't want to compare him to anybody, to Ray Lewis or anybody that's ever played a position. But he's one of the top 10 greatest players in this league. And right now he might be in the top 5.
Wow.
The way that he's playing. Cashman had a great game the other day for Minnesota. But there is no other Fred Warner in this league. There was a time, you could say Roquan Smith or you could say Bobby Wagner. There's guys, but it's beyond the middle linebacker position. Go find me a corner. Go find me a quarterback. Go find me a left tackle. Go find me anybody that plays the game at the highest level, at this most consistent level. There's nobody in this league right now at any position that plays at a higher or more consistent level than Fred.
Wow, those are great.
Wow. That's the best thing you hear about Fred Warner all day today. My goodness, absolutely love it. And we're eating it up. Faithful, you're watching it. We're watching it. We're all seeing it. The greater conversation, I encourage you to go check out their YouTube channel where you can catch some of the clips like that. Baldy's on once a week, and that clip always gets posted. I'm always a big fan of it and looking forward to it. I know they had Greg Gazelle on today with Willard and Dibbs. I look forward to that as well. But my goodness, the take that he has here, there isn't a more consistent player at any position in this league a minute later than saying there is nobody in the league right now playing higher or more consistent than Fred Warner. He might be top 5 in the league right now with the way he's playing. PFF grades, by the way, we talked about yesterday, would suggest yes. Number 1 PFF grade in the NFL right now through 2 games. And obviously, take those for what you will, for what it's worth, whatever. We are watching a very, very special player. We are very fortunate to have Fred Warner out there in the mic, just absolutely destroying teams right now. Destroying teams. And we need him to keep doing it because he kept us in that game. We had a shot to come back, and technically we had a shot to win that game. I'll say, a couple things had to go the right way. But, technically speaking, you look at the Atlanta game. Technically speaking, it was possible, okay? It was possible. So that's the only reason we had a shot was because of Fred Warner. The pick was huge, but the fumble on the goal line, even more important, even more valuable. So huge from Fred Warner, and a great take from Baldy there. I wanted to get to this clip, and it's not loading for me, so if it doesn't work, I'm just going to have to give you the short version of it real quick. But Brandon Aiyuk and Deebo Samuel were talking about the game against the Minnesota Vikings, and I got the clip right here, and I'm having issues with it. It works in an incognito tab, but it isn't working. There's a cookie problem or something like that. I don't know. I'm not a computer science expert, but I know that that's the case for some reason. Basically, just asking about it, and the weird thing was Deebo kind of answers the question like you'd expect him to answer. He kind of talks about some things that went wrong. We all need to be better at a position. Playing our best games, whatever. And Brandon Aiyuk gets asked, and his literal answer is, "They did a good job. On to the next." And just the worst body language ever. And it concerns me. I don't want to make something out of nothing. I don't want to overreact on a guy on social media, in a podcast, whatever. I don't want to overreact, but it does concern me when his body language is so incredibly negative. And we're like, dude, you just got paid. You should be out there hyped. You should be ready to go. Now, maybe, that's just my take. That's just my opinion. Feel free to let me know in the comments. You disagree. That's okay. But I feel like he should be out there. He should be hyped. He should be raring to go for the next game. He should be pumped about how they're going to go attack the Rams. That's where my head's at. I don't know. That's just me. But then there's this take, which did load for some reason. So I'll take this one as well. And this is a great take from Deebo Samuel about what it's going to take to get back to the Super Bowl and to win it. And Deebo said some wonderful words. It actually starts with Brandon Aiyuk's portion of the interview, which, again, his body language is not, ideal.
What do you think, Aiyuk, is going to help you guys? What is it going to take to get you over the hump and finally hold that Lombardi trophy? Maybe either from your team or from you.
Just everybody from today, these past 2 weeks, from today forward, doing whatever they got to do every single day to make sure that their best self when that time comes. So that's it.
Kind of the same thing, kind of like be your best self, and as long as you know you left it all out there, and win, lose, or draw, as long as you know you gave it everything, it's you ain't got no regrets at all.
So it sounds like you guys are pretty convinced that as long as everybody shows up, there's no doubt that you guys feel like it can be your year.
Kind of like what he said, my eyes, we've been on the best team in the league for a while.
So everyone's just got to show up. Everyone's got to show up, and then it's a wrap. It's a wrap for everybody else. We have
Everybody shows up. Been the best team for a while. Everybody shows up. It's a wrap. I love the confidence. I'm going to take that. I'm going to take that confidence and say that that's a positive outlook to have on this. He's not entirely wrong. It's definitely the best roster in football. I think there's some coaching things that need to be ironed out. I'm not 100% happy with how all of the coaching. I'm not even 85% happy with how the coaching went on Sunday. So there are definitely some areas that need to be ironed out. I'm excited that it's a long season because it gives Nick Sorensen a chance to kind of figure some things out, make some mistakes like he has this weekend, and come back and improve. That's good. We need that because we're not ready for the Super Bowl right now. I agree with you that this is the best roster in football, and I'll even agree with you that best that's been there for a while, right? Over the course of the majority of last season. But we're not ready right this second. There's still some work that needs to be done. While we're talking about that, I mentioned to you earlier, we'd be coming back to the situation with Brock Purdy and this reality that there's going to be a massive spotlight on Brock Purdy. It's going to be a huge storyline in this game. What can Brock Purdy do without Christian McCaffrey and without Deebo Samuel? We saw what he did without Deebo Samuel, but also without Trent Williams in those 3 losses in the middle of the season last year. But what about this season? With Trent Williams, but without Deebo? That's a good question. We don't know. I thought he played pretty well for playing so horribly on Sunday. I mean, it was not a great game. It was probably in the bottom tier of what he's done in a 49ers uniform, well, in an NFL uniform of any kind, and he still threw for 300 yards. So I'll take that. He led 2 very long drives, very long scoring drives. So whatever the case is, here's a good perspective or a good example of the kind of language that's being thrown around right now related to Brock Purdy. If Patrick Mahomes walked into a game with Brandon Aiyuk, George Kittle, and a running back with consecutive 100-yard games, we'd say he's got the weapons to succeed. I agree with Sterling Bennett here. The same stands for Brock Purdy. No excuses as to why the 49ers don't stomp the Rams. I can't disagree with that. I'm 100% with you. I look at this team right now with Brandon Aiyuk, with George Kittle, with Juwan Jennings, with Jordan Mason running like he's running right now, and I'd say there are a lot of teams in the league that right now would be happy with that opportunity. There are a lot of quarterbacks in the league right now that would be happy with those weapons. There are a lot of coaches right now in the league that would be happy with that opportunity. No, it's not as good as it is when you have Christian McCaffrey and Deebo Samuel. We're not trying to act like they're going to be as good as they are without them because they're a huge part of game plans and they're a huge part of the season as a whole. But the 49ers have all week to prepare for time without Deebo. The 49ers have had multiple weeks now to prepare for life without Christian McCaffrey, at least for a little while. So they should have plenty of time to scheme up some solutions against the beaten up Rams with the available players. So I'm 100% with you. On the positive side with Brock Purdy, but give him a little credit for another little stat that kind of sticks out. I like these stats when I see them on the internet. Brock Purdy leads the NFL in aggressive throw percentage at 24.6%, which tracks the percentage of passing attempts thrown into coverage where defenders within 1 yard or less of the receiver. We saw several of those against the Minnesota Vikings. Among the top 8 quarterbacks in AGG percentage, Brock Purdy has the highest QB rating and completion percentage. Take with that what you will. It's another little stat. For those of you that like to be a little Brock Purdy apologists, you can stick that in your pocket. You can hold on to it for later. Guys, this is going to be a big game against the Rams. I'm excited to continue breaking down the news as we lead up to the game. It's going to be a big game. 49ers have a lot to prove, and they have a huge opportunity. It's not as good an opportunity as playing someone like the Carolina Panthers, but it's a pretty good opportunity to go out there and really make a statement. Make a statement about how we feel about the loss, how seriously we're taking this season, how seriously we're taking the opportunity we have to go on a serious Super Bowl run with an incredible roster and take advantage of all of the work that this team has done to become as good as they are. So I'm excited about it. It's going to be fun. I'm feeling pumped. What a time to be alive.